Robert, thank you for coming in. Well, what do you make of what's happening here? And, you know, we do have the China law, of course, being discussed there in Congress. Is it no surprise that we do see this appreciation taking place?
Well, I would actually see it as an effort to help promote market stability. I thought there was a key point in late September when the authorities, central banks, governments realised they had a major problem in the financial markets and they were going to act decisively to meet that. So on the one hand we had the efforts in Europe to deal with the bank problem. We had coordinated intervention across Asia. We had the Bank of Indonesia, Bank of Korea. The question is, what would China do to promote stability? Yeah. And as the dollar was pushed up across a whole range of crosses in Asia, the dollar CNY fixes started to head lower decisively. So I headed a recent piece, People's Bank of China, beacon of stability, and I think that's what they've been doing. They've basically been acting in a strong role to promote stability in the markets.
Appreciation, though, here is being managed very closely, isn't it?
Absolutely, of course, and I think you're right in some ways that there is a geopolitical aspect to it. We have not only the G20 meeting, but of course the legal process, legislation in the United States. So these are clearly factors playing a role in driving yuan appreciation, but of course there remain domestic reasons for the appreciation too.
Well, inflation. I mean, it's a way of dealing with our inflation problem, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But also I think there's broader issues about the creditworthiness of governments in developed markets. You have to ask the question really whether China wants to continue to build its foreign exchange reserves at the pace it has been in recent years. Reserves are already very high. Do they really want to be adding US Treasuries and other government debt at this point?
Well, if they don't, that has serious implications for what they already own. That's the problem. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place.
Well, but it just reinforces the case for gradually allowing the yuan to appreciate. So eventually, at some point, we'll get to more of a balance in terms of the current account, and at that point, they'll have no natural need to intervene anymore in the FX market or add to their reserves.
Robert, let's also have a look at what else has been going, because I mean the euro has been actually pretty strong and resilient given all the uncertainty surrounding Europe. We've seen, of course, a pullback in recent weeks, but again, it's 135 thereabouts. No, I have to guess they're sitting there. There's no way on earth that can you call it a value currency. I think it's far too high. Where does it go next, and how much of it is down to diversification by the Central Bank of China into the currency markets?
Well, I think that diversification story is actually extremely important, but what we're stressing is that we think that there is a cyclical slowdown underway in continental Europe, and over time both that and the associated interest rate developments, in particular the likely cuts by the European Central Bank, will undermine the euro. So I think we can readily get below 130 before the end of the year on euro-dollar, for example.
Okay, well, let's talk about the dollar itself, because of course we've seen this rally take place, but seen it when we've seen equity markets weak, oddly enough, and people said, oh, it's because of a pullback, people are repatriating funds. I really don't know. I don't know what your view is on that, but where does the dollar go, and does the recent move up come to an end?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say is that the dollar is basically the home of capital globally. So we saw heavy investment into local currency bond markets earlier in the year. But through the course of August and September, the investors in local currency bonds, particularly in Asia, were keen to hedge that exposure in the FX market, the FX exposure that they had. And so that's the reason, I think, why we saw the dollar being bid up on a range of crosses. We think that the dollar has a further burst of strength into year-end. But as we get into 2012, I think more constructive themes will emerge again for currencies, particularly in this region in Asia.